There's so many productive things you can do with your free time. Whether you decide to start a small business and be financially productive, go to the gym and be healthier, or be one with nature to clear your mind and feel better mentally as well as spiritually. Or you could even post corny sports videos with random memes inserted in between Dylan Brooks highlights for whatever reason. Whatever it is, there's so many ways you could spend your time furthering yourself. Or you could stare at your screen for hours at a time praying that the specific player you drafted for a virtual sports league is catching a football in hopes of getting virtual points. Now, fantasy sports is something I was always interested in growing up. My dad, brother, and cousin were all extremely invested in the fantasy football every football season. And I have no personality of my own, so I become one with the herd and join up. So, one day in 7th grade, while on PlayStation voice chat, I said to my friends in a squeaker voice, "Hey, y'all down to make a fantasy sports league?" To which everyone co-signed the idea. This, unfortunately, was the start of a long, unfulfilling addiction. Now, regular channel viewers may be wondering, isn't this a basketball channel? To which you are completely right, and I will get to fantasy basketball soon enough. As for now, I need to talk about why making a fantasy football league was a dumbass idea for 12-year-old me. Many people have suggested that I make videos on NFL, and to that, I always respond, hell nah, I don't know shit about football. To this day, I still really don't. All I know is that I'm a Bills fan, and I know the star players in the league, and even that I don't know most of the star players. So when drafting my team, all I knew was to take a running back with my first picks. Why? The streets told me to. The rest, I went off of projections and assembled damn near the same team an AI would, which is why I got packed up and lost my first year of fantasy. Which brings me to the next year I played fantasy, which was when I decided to double up and put my immense ball knowledge to the test, as I dabbled in fantasy basketball also. And to say the least about fantasy basketball, I hate it. Oh my god, I cannot stand playing fantasy basketball. That shit is a full-time job. And if you decide to draft a diva, you're cooked. If you draft Zion, you're gonna have to check every night to see if he's playing, or if he's sitting because he decided to eat gumbo the night prior and has an upset stomach. Not to mention that there's like 20 games that you have to keep track of to see if you're gonna win. Like, how does one consume that much basketball? Consuming basketball is damn near part of my job right now, and I still can't watch that much, man. Not to mention, you have to study about 40 matchups to see if you should start or bench your player, because they're going against some actual comp and might get blown out, which means they're gonna sit most of the game. That shit had me checking advanced stats on Giannis like I was making an analysis video with one of those titles like the NBA's biggest problem, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like, why am I working this hard for some shit that does not matter at all? We didn't even have money on this. After about 2 games, I decided this was doing way too much and just tanked the league because I didn't even have money on it. So who cares? And speaking of money, let's skip to junior year, which was when me and my friends got ready. So we were actually able to put some stakes on our fantasy football leagues. Unfortunately, the day of the actual draft, I had to work, so my team was auto-drafted, which is one of the worst aspects of fantasy because the bot tends to put together rosters comparable to the 2015-16 Lakers and how ass they are. Luckily, the bot actually blessed me this year, and throughout the whole year, I was first in the league along with another one of my friends, and we had Spanish together. And that was the only thing we talked about. We were the Kobe and Shaq of the league and steamrolled anyone against us. Although we were the 2 best teams in the league, it was clear who the best team in the league was, and it wasn't mine. It was his by a good amount. It was a clear 1-2 situation with 2 being pretty far behind. But throughout it all, I still made the playoffs. I was the 2nd seed in the league, so I got a bye week. And then I beat the first matchup in the playoffs, meaning I went to the finals and it was against my friend. And everyone in that league doubted me. They thought I was going to lose for sure. They thought I was cooked. But I won. I won. I didn't know a single thing about the sport and my friends all did. But I still won regardless because my team, it was constructed beautifully by the bot. But I still acted like I had ball knowledge in that group chat because I made a singular trade in that year. The trade didn't really impact me at all, but I still won the league. So I had the ball knowledge. You know, even though 3 of his players got put on COVID reserve and that was probably the only reason I won, I still won that damn league. After I won that league, I was up $200 and all swell to end swell, you know what I'm saying? Just a storybook ending to my fantasy career. Until we ran it back next year. It's been 2 years since that time, and last year I was last place, and this year I'm barely in the playoffs. But I'm still gonna win this. Y'all don't know who I am. I got Christian McCaffrey on my team. He's a dog. Anyways, moving on from my story in fantasy, I gotta talk about some things I absolutely hate about fantasy. The first one being, when that one person keeps sending you a trade over and over again. You have no idea how many times last year I declined a James Cook for Josh Allen trade because someone wanted to say he's just like his brother. He's not like his brother. Stop sending me that bullshit and let me keep Josh Allen. I'd get woken up at 2 a.m. for my friends calling me. I'm out here thinking that's like a medical emergency or some shit. I gotta pull up to their house and take them to the hospital. When it's just them saying, hey yo, peep that trade I sent you, gang. Just for the trade to be the worst thing that's ever graced my eyes and my existence on this earth. Another thing I hate is the exact opposite though. I hate when you send people some fair trades and they don't like it and they don't even tend to look at it. They just decline that shit straight up as soon as they see it. Like, buddy, at least think about what you're doing. Don't just not trade because you don't feel like it. It makes the league so boring. My brother, you are in last place getting mad at people sending you trade offers. You need to switch something up. You haven't won a damn game and we're 12 games in. Lock in. Now moving on to the thing I probably hate the most in fantasy, that being these matchups. It really astonishes me how I can drop the second most points in the league every week just to get outscored by the #1 scorer every time. I can have the most points in this fantasy league just for the bot to somehow place a matchup where I'm facing the God Squad, the greatest team to ever play football that week. They have every single top scorer. I'm getting blown out by like 100 points and I'm the second highest scorer of that week. I think I have my matchup locked in. I'm beating everyone else in the league but that one team because they got insanely lucky. Moving on to another thing I hate is that when you have that one person in the league that won't shut up about fantasy. Now I know I said earlier I always talk about my friend about fantasy football in Spanish, but that's a one-on-one conversation and we're both like mutually agreeing to discuss what we doing, how we're gonna set our teams, you know, what we thinking, we'll think about the waiver wire and all that. But this is different. That one person pulls up to the function. It's a group thing. We can be talking about anything and they always bring up fantasy somehow. I don't know how they always get to this topic. Like, this isn't our whole life. I don't care that much. And it always seems to be that one person that's doing good at fantasy that year. Their whole life is based off of one season of fantasy football where they're doing good. Like, we get it, buddy. You're matched up against me and you think you're gonna win. Cool. I don't care if you win. It is what it is. I'm in last place. I am the bottom feeder of this league. You should beat me. Alright, now one more thing I hate. I hate when I have one player on the bench and he decides to go off. He can be a player that never touches the field, but this one day he decides to drop a 50-point fantasy game and I had him on my bench. And then people are like, hey yo, you should have started him. Like, thanks for the great information. If I knew this was going to be the greatest game of his career, I would have started him. With all that being said, there actually is a lot of good aspects of fantasy. Like, it's able to connect you with your family and friends in times that maybe you wouldn't see them by shooting up texts once in a while saying, hey yo, we're matched up this week. Best person win, and just talking shit once in a while. Like, that's a good part of fantasy. And another reason is, like gambling, it gives you like an incentive to watch the game more than just watching it for the love of the sport. Which, I mean, if you don't love the sport, I really don't think you should be playing fantasy all that much. But hey, I don't really watch football, but I watch for fantasy, so damn near I might be hypocritical in that aspect. All in all, fantasy obviously is like a pastime. It's not something to die behind like a lot of people try to make it. If you lose in fantasy, it is what it is. But if I lose in fantasy, I'm gonna get pissed off because I put money on the line and I think I'm probably gonna lose. I'm in the quarterfinals and I'm gonna crash out if I lose yet again, man. One thing that I'm kind of neutral about is like fantasy being like this thing to promote gambling. Like, I'm neutral towards it because I mean I gamble too, but like at the same time it's kind of odd. Like, these apps are disguising themselves as fantasy or like daily fantasy when at the end of the day it's just gambling. But I mean, there's nothing you really can do. The sports gambling industry in America is so large at this point, and I'm pretty sure it's pretty large across the world too, so you really can't do anything about it. Conclusion, y'all better draft CMC next year. That dude is a dog. And ending statement, if you have something you really want to do, like how I really want to start fantasy, then go ahead and do it. Don't limit yourself and chase whatever aspiration you have at the moment, because you're gonna feel a lot of regret if you don't do it in the future when you had the opportunity to when you were younger. Don't let your dream be just a